then I think it's totally fine to celebrate that person's sexuality. And if you don't happen to be, let's just say, titillated by them, it's also totally fine to not be. Because guess what? You can be attracted or not attracted to people. That's up to you. In terms of like, has there been a complete erasure of, let's say, blonde white women with large breasts and people finding that attractive? No. What are we doing here? What is the segment? What am I doing right now? Today we have to talk about the Trojan horse that apparently has been sent to destroy wokeness, and it happens to be hippies. Yes, like most of you, I was very, very confused after Saturday to see a whole bunch of celebrations amongst the right that apparently boobies, boobas, titties have destroyed wokeness effectively because of Sydney Sweeney's appearance on SNL. I did see the usual articles that came out about this appearance saying that it is unfortunate that all of the focus in all of these sketches and the writing and everything was about how attractive Sydney Sweeney is and basically about not much else. You know, what are we going to do for this sketch? Why don't we make Sydney Sweeney into a Hooters waitress? Okay. What are we going to do for this sketch? Why don't we put Sydney Sweeney in a position where she's very, very hot? Okay. And then after that, maybe one more where she's like super good looking and beautiful. Okay. All right. And that was pretty much like the SNL episode. But the right suddenly making posts about how wokeness hath been destroyed. And it was confusing at first because I'll be honest with you, the right's been on a very strange arc when it comes to women and their bodies and how they present themselves or their sexuality. If you weren't paying attention, I think it was like 3 months ago, I want to say about 3 months ago, all of the right-wingers were using advanced technology, deep machine learning, to clothe women forcibly. They would take photos of women that they thought were sluts or were exposing too much skin or shit like that, and then they would use this app, an AI, to put clothing on their bodies and then also add creepy ass AI generated children in the background, and it was supposed to be like a forced trad wifing, and then they were all posting their pictures of doing this. It was all so fucking weird and bizarre, but ultimately it all like boils down to the same thing. It doesn't matter if they're extremely horny posting on Maine or extremely chaste posting on Maine or whatever the fuck you call that shit. It's about controlling women and their sexuality. Always has been. And that's what it all really comes down to, right? In this case, they're celebrating, and now we know because all these weird-ass articles have come out in the National Post and other outlets as well, that they're celebrating the very idea that they feel that they have been forced for too long to have to accept different standards of beauty. Like, I'm sure you all remember Jordan Peterson, who thinks that, you know, if the woman is not attractive in his eyes, that's what authoritarianism is. Like, oh, sorry, not attractive. No amount of authoritarianism can change that. All that kind of shit. And yeah, it's weird and confusing because, again, the, like, stereotypical, beautiful woman ideal that is seen in magazines and film and pop music and culture and photo shoots and spreads and modeling and all that stuff hasn't really changed at all, like one bit. There has been certainly efforts made to be able to make people recognize just like this stone cold fact. I'm gonna drop some truth bombs on everybody here, that there's many different kinds of attractive women. Yes, I know, controversial, but yeah, it's not a one set of boobies fits all. There's many different kinds of breasts: huge breasts, small breasts, modest breasts, perky breasts. There's many kinds. Same thing applies to men as well. You know, we don't only have to admire the beefcake. And while the beefcake is beautiful, and we do love the muscly Chad and all that kind of stuff, who hopefully is also a woke bae, we also have to appreciate that there's different types of male physique, right? There's of course the noble twink and the sexiness therein. And there can be many different kinds of body types, both for men and women. And guess what? If someone is wanting to be celebrated for their sexuality at a given time, then I think it's totally fine to celebrate that person's sexuality. And if you don't happen to be, let's just say, titillated by them, it's also totally fine to not be. Because guess what? You can be attracted or not attracted to people. That's up to you. In terms of like, has there been a complete erasure of, let's say, blonde white women with large breasts and people finding that attractive? No. What are we doing here? What is the segment? What am I doing right now? To be honest, part of me yesterday was kind of jealous I was kind of jealous because I was like, inventing oppression seems fun. Like if you haven't experienced any form of discrimination or oppression your entire life, and you got to sit there and think of something to feel marginalized for, yeah, why not? Why not invent this myth that apparently hot white blonde women with huge tits were considered something. Like, if you're under 25, you might not know the mythical time when people used to find blonde white women with huge boobs hot. But oh, let me tell you of the past, the good old days before everything changed. What? It's so ridiculous. This one kind of broke my brain, but at least it's fun. Hey, we get to celebrate titties. If you don't know, the National Post ain't some small little tiny magazine. It's a national publication in Canada. It's right wing, it is, but it is a major newspaper, a very large one of global repute. I disagree fundamentally with all of the reporting they do. They do a lot of gross ass shit. It is, again, very right wing, but the National Post is usually a jumping off point because people who don't live in Canada might think that it is of high respect as a newspaper, and then they'll take articles in the National Post and then they'll replicate them by much less reputable publications such as the New York Post or the Sun or GB News or any of those kind of things. Will run with it like, well, this isn't a major Canadian newspaper. Yeah, so just so you know, this is actual fact. I will add, I believe this is an opinion piece. I think NP comment. Yeah, okay, opinion. This is an opinion piece, just so we're clear. Amy Ham, wokeness is no match for Sydney Sweeney's undeniable beauty. We've been pressured into pretending everyone is beautiful, except for those who actually are, by Amy Ham. I would like to emphasize that this article was written by a woman. As thirsty as some people may feel the article is, this is not written by a man who is lusting after a woman, just so we're completely clear. Yes. Are Sydney Sweeney's breasts double D harbingers of the death of woke? This is what the public is asking. It isn't, though, at all, by anyone. I mean, I know you're trying to make that happen. I'll be honest, I don't think if I had sat down with a group of just regular everyday people who aren't completely tapped into the online culture wars and stuff like that, they will certainly know what SNL is. They will know who Sydney Sweeney is, and they may even find Sydney Sweeney incredibly attractive. If I was to tell you, are Sydney Sweeney's titties destroying the woke mind virus, they would have no fucking idea what the fuck I just said. Yeah, because it is nonsensical, right? It's just kind of cartoonish gibberish. Or I guess the conservative horny. Like, if you are right wing and repressed and very, very horny, and you're just so excited to have to talk about this and finally be able to talk about this as if it has some kind of, moral standing in the culture wars, well, here's your chance. Yeah, have at it. At least those on social media, after Euphoria actress garnered a particularly large audience as the host of Saturday Night Live last week, Sweeney is obviously a conventional, attractive young woman. And if you don't personally admire her beauty, we can certainly all agree that she has voluminous appeal. Sweeney knows this and runs with it, playfully owning her sex appeal with zero apologies. On SNL, she bulged from her tops, self-deprecatingly, suggesting that her breasts are her backup career, and now virally donned a Hooters uniform for a rather unsophisticated sketch dedicated to her overflowing cups. Overflowing, yes, they simply cannot be contained, not by mere mortal methods. Exactly how this led to a cultural cataclysm over beauty and wokeness can be summarized as follows. Clowns, circus. You are clowns in the circus. This is the spectacle. Like, no one is on the other side of this. I gotta be honest. No one. There's no leftist or progressive or socialist who is against beautiful ass titties. Like, if anything, it's a celebration, Like, what the fuck? No, cover those up. That's what we've been saying this whole time. How dare she? How dare she have beautiful boobs and love her own breasts? We spent years being chastised for desiring or admiring beauty. The right has been doing that. That's the right. The right wing. That's the whole thing. Conservatism, return to tradition, traditionalism, modesty, put on more clothes, how to dress modest, how to be chaste, how to be virgin, how to flaunt one's beauty and elegance without having to show skin. Yeah, that's all. This is all right wing shit. 100%. It's not coming from it. No, even liberals, they're all like titties. Fucking love titties. Titties are glorious. Yeah, libs, everybody. It's just the right wingers. And the right wingers, don't get me wrong, they love titties. If they weren't saying that out loud now, they're screaming it. They're just screaming around. So that's happening. Yeah. So I guess maybe this could be just a universal truth, right? That like, titties are awesome. We don't have to fight over this one. There is no culture war here. There's no culture war here. Because beauty is rare and exclusionary. Here it gets down to the crux, right? Because there's this feeling. I know sometimes when there are mild advancements in equality, some people who were already part of, or some people who support, systems of hierarchy, they may feel as if they themselves are being oppressed when they're not. Again, even slight advancements, even very small, minute advancements may feel people who are already benefiting from a hierarchy to suddenly feel like this is oppression. It's that butterfly meme. Is this oppression? And it's not. It's not. So if there's been situations where people who may not conform to the ideal standard of beauty, aka white, let's be clear on that, white, right? White, young, large-breasted, all of those things. If someone doesn't fit into those categories and it's different than what is considered, again, to be the standardized version of beauty, then of course people are suddenly going to think like it's oppressive, such as Jordan Peterson, to see something else suddenly appear on a magazine. Now, does that mean that in any way there hasn't been a whole bunch of beautiful white women in magazines? Have they gone away? Are they no longer in films or movies or television shows? Or are they no longer pop stars? Are they no longer models or anything like that? The answer again would be no, not at all. But this is what it gets down to. The right now feels they've been forced against their will to find things they never found hot beautiful, right? They don't like it. No. Why should I have to look at that? The answer is you don't. You can choose not to buy the magazine, the Sports Illustrated, whatever you want. You can choose to buy it if you do want it, and that's about all there is. You're not being forced against your will to suddenly like something you don't. There's no such thing as sissy hypnotic porn that can turn you bi or pan or change you from being cis to trans. It doesn't work that way. No matter how much research Michael Knowles does, no matter how much he has to watch every single title that floods him with that terrible, nasty algorithm, just keeps putting all of the sissy, big cock, hypnotic porn into his feed every day. Just, oh God, they're doing it again. They are. It's the LGBTQ plus community trying to manipulate me against my will. They'll never break me. I have to remain resilient and watch as much of it as possible every day to be able to show everybody how I'm super straight. And to exclude to hate, or so we're scolded to accept by today's diversity, equity, and inclusion fanatics. We aren't supposed to admire Sweeney's beauty, but we've done it anyways. The times, they are a-changin', aren't they? No one can tell us anymore that we're not allowed to find this specific body type hot. Yeah. You failed, wokeness. You can't stop us. We're gonna thirst. Recall the words of the unrepentant thought criminal Jordan Peterson on the plus-size model that graced the cover of Sports Illustrated 2 years back. Sorry, not beautiful. No amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that. To this day, the man is partly facing censure from his professional regulator over these words. Yes, very, very fair reading as to what has happened in terms of Jordan Peterson potentially losing his medical license. Again, with almost zero stakes. He actually has just been told that he has to take a course about his online behavior. And most of it has to do with the fact that he actually told someone to unalive themselves and made a joke about it. Not very professional in regards to what he does for a living. Also, his complete hatred and targeting of trans people consistently. His refusal to not misgender or dead name Elliot Page. His obsession over Elliot Page's abs and all the shit that he is nonstop been saying about Elliot Page. Again, in relation to his profession looks pretty fucked up. So has a lot more to do with that. He was ridiculed for this, though. Absolutely, as he should be, of course. It's just utterly bizarre to think that, you know, your hot or not scale is the same thing as authoritarianism. Kind of ridiculous, you know? We've all been pressured into pretending that we are bad people if we aren't attracted to every influencer wannabe who is unattractive by any reasonable standard of beauty. It is the adult equivalent of handing out ribbons to every kid on sports day, even to that kid that face planted in the mud puddle and couldn't finish a potato sack race. Everyone wins. Everyone must be regarded as beautiful, except, of course, the people who actually are. Yeah. I mean, come on. Boys, you can recognize it, can't you? Why'd you gotta pretend? Why do you gotta be like, yeah, okay, that's hot, when you know it's not? Deep down in your hearts, you know it's not. This is the battle. People want to look at beauty on TV, and in art generally, but we're being starved of it because attractiveness is deemed immoral. As such, beauty is now political. For this, we can thank the tyrannical, woke, and, ironically, minority vanguard that has for years coerced our culture into pretending that unbeautiful things are in fact beautiful. It's not that Sweeney herself is political. She's not. Nor does she need to be in order to make a point that so many apparently believe she has made. And while her breasts have caused a furor, I don't see this as a sudden death knell of wokeness. So, when I talk about Sweeney, like, this whole thing could have just been, like, yeah, no one was ever going to dispute that a bunch of right-wingers were going to find an attractive person hot, and were going to find her breasts appealing, and we're going to be like, whoa, bazingas! And that would have been the end of it, because, yeah, okay, you have thirsted, and that's what you've done. But to try and turn this into some kind of a cultural battle or a victory is complete and utter nonsense. To, like, such an extent that, like, again, how can anyone take any of this seriously? How can people with a straight face both write an article like this, get it published in a national newspaper, have it become, yeah, now it is world news, because everyone is for laughing at Canada yet again. Jordan Peterson's daughter was even embarrassed by that. Yeah, well, everyone was. His own fans were fucking, you know, chirping him in the replies and all that kind of stuff. When I talk about Sweeney causing a cultural cataclysm, I only mean insofar as it is perceived to be one. It's not that Sweeney conversation isn't welcome. It is. It's just that we've been heading in this direction for months. The signs have been all around us, perhaps just not so large and buoyant as this one. Consider another recent SNL guest, comedian Dave Chappelle. He hosted the show in November 2022. This was 1 year after his Netflix special, The Closer, with his jokes about trans issues, and it caused widespread hysteria amongst California's danger hares. Danger hare refers to toxic creatures, whether amphibians or hyper-woke homo sapiens, that are brightly colored as a means to signal their poisonous. Cool. Netflix employees staged a walkout and protested alongside members of the public for their embarrassing inability to handle jokes made by a comedian. In the comedy special, the New York Times called it one of the most visible signs of worker unrest in the history of the streaming service. Every lefty magazine released obsequious, moralizing essays about Chappelle and what it means to, quote, punch down. And yet, SNL still wanted Dave, because we've known for some time that most of us are not running on the same operating system as the terminally offended cry bullies. The ratings don't lie. They didn't with Chappelle, and they haven't with Sweeney. Sweeney was never canceled by anyone. What the fuck are you talking about? No one is on the other side of this issue. I've never seen a single leftist be like, not hot. Yeah, sorry, pass. No, I want my woke titties. Where's my woke titties? These unwoke titties. What the fuck? Titties by definition are not or not woke. What do these words mean anymore? If Chappelle had Sweeney's buxom bust. I'm a professional. I can do this. They didn't with Chappelle, and they haven't with Sweeney. If Chappelle had Sweeney's buxom bust, we could have easily been having the same cultural conversation more than a year ago. What does this mean? Do you want to force feminize Dave Chappelle, giving massive titties, have some huge bazongas, and then just comes out there and he's like, ha-ha, and that was going to be like the whole bit? And then you'd be like, whoa, wokeness hath been destroyed. Look at that. Again, no one can resist. And hey, if the Sweeney discourse isn't buttoned up with the neck quickly enough, I wouldn't rule out the possibility of an SNL staff walkout or a ceremoniac diatribe about an upcoming host over the inherent harm and violence of the Eurocentric beauty standards. Vanity Fair has already published a think piece, I use that term loosely, on how SNL did her dirty by enabling the audience to merely observe her youth and beauty. Bastards. Maybe SNL will pay. Like, again, I imagine the hosts or the people who participate in SNL, they work with the writers. They get to have some input into the writing process. And if Sydney Sweeney was like, you know what, here's a great idea for a sketch. Let's talk about my tits. Or, hey, I got a funny idea for a sketch. Let me be a Hooters waitress and I can, like, you know, show off my tits and stuff. Yeah, okay, who the fuck cares? That's, again, if that's what you want to do it. If you want to flaunt your sexuality, do it. No one is on the other side of this issue. But none of these possibilities will change the fact that we are all starting to. And then again, that Vanity Fair article would have had some validity if that wasn't the case at all. If Sydney Sweeney showed up and they're like, okay, let's write some sketches, and then the writers were like, okay, the first sketch is gonna be about your tits. Okay, cool. What's the next one about? Boobs. And the one after that, let me guess, boys. Pretty sure what you want me to write about. Okay. Yeah. Well, then, yeah, that's worth a discussion. Do you not think, in and of itself, that I would assume that there's more to Sydney Sweeney than simply her beautiful breastises, but apparently that is just what the hyper focus is going to be on. But none of these possibilities will change the fact that we are all starting to envision the death of woke. We're seeing it everywhere, including in the breasts of young, beautiful women. And that's besides the point, because with Sweeney, what it really comes down to is this: sex sells. Has anyone figured that out before? That's actually pretty astute. I've heard and seen many observations on pop culture and life in general. And has anyone figured that out? That sex, in fact, sells. People like things that also turn them on. Wokeness is dead.
Thank you, everyone, for tonight. This has been such an amazing week. Thank you, Lord. Thank you to the amazing cast. Thank you, Stacey and Glenn. This has been so wonderful. Have a great night. Thank you.
That was the clip for Wokeness is Dead. Unlike the rest of you perverts, okay, because I'm a true feminist, I didn't once look at her cleavage when that segment was playing. I was looking at her eyes. They were up there. I'm sure you all saw. I wanted to hear what she had to say. You know, I was treating her like a human. I was not looking at her breasts. You're all perverts. Every single one of you. You know, you have given in to the anti-woke mind virus and it's destroying you from the inside out. Sydney Sweeney and the return of real body positivity. Our fascination with the female figure never went away. We know! I feel like this is everyone poops, but for boobs, you know? I just gotta hand out some like really easy to understand book for the right. Like, so please tell me, okay, if there's one good thing to come from all this. I just, one little victory. Here's all I ask. Here's the only thing I want to know. Okay, here's my ask. Can we stop then, right wingers? Can we? Is it done? Can you stop trying to police women's bodies? Because it seems like you're still doing it, even right now. Even in your celebration of female sexuality and the breasts itself, even in this moment in time, you're still doing it. You're still like, this is what they took away from us. We were told we're not allowed to enjoy the female form. No, that was you. That was all of you. You're the ones who have been saying that. You fucking were using an app, AI, to try and put clothes back on ladies and then artificially put children behind them. What weird fucked up shit is this stuff? You like force them to become trad wives. Yes, unconsensual trad wife apps. They exist. You made them and you're using them. You fucking weirdos. This is what happens when like your mind is so poisoned after years and years of right-wing rhetoric that all of a sudden it's like, I'm allowed. Oh god, boobs. Yay, boobs are back. Where did they go? Holy shit. Sydney Sweeney made engagement farming easy with her cleavage revealing curtain call this past weekend as the host of Saturday Night Live. If you spent any time online at all, I'm sure you've seen the video. Wrapped in revealing a little black dress, Sydney thanks her cast, the crew, Lorne Michaels, and giggles and bounces in a familiar way that we haven't seen in decades. For anyone under the age of 25, yeah, sorry Zoomers. You Zoomers, you don't know. You don't know what it was used to, like, life? It was different back then, all right? Yeah, us millennials, we know what it was like. You were allowed to enjoy white women who were super hot and had huge tits. They changed all that. They took that away from all of us. Yeah. They've never likely seen it in their lifetime, as the giggling blonde with an amazing rack has been stamped out of existence. A creature shamed on the brink of extinction. I'm honestly shocked at the response to Sydney Sweeney, although I probably shouldn't be. She reminds me of Jenny McCarthy in the white bikini circa 1996, and there were hundreds of her type with me for me growing up. In fact, when she dressed up in the Hooters uniform for one of the sketches, I could have sworn she was Pamela Anderson or Denise Richards. Where did they go? If you went to any mall in the American Midwest in 1999, you would have seen dozens of Sydneys wandering around, traveling in packs, twirling their hair, and doing the same hot girl thing with their hands when they got excited. See, back in my day, kids, boobs were everywhere. It was the 1990s and early 2000s. We had Pamela Anderson and Baywatch. Jennifer Love Hewitt graced the cover of Maxim with her boobs. My girlfriends always used to complain about not understanding men. I told them, stop reading Cosmo and start reading Maxim. Our supermodels like Tyra Banks and Cindy Crawford had curves. Carmen Electra did one of the hottest photo shoots in the history of Playboy magazine in her 2003 cover spread. McCarthy was Playmate of the Year in 1993, and from there became the host of Singled Out on MTV. The Man Show with Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel had a segment, and it was just girls jumping on trampolines. We were a culture awash in tits, and it was glorious. We could look at boobs and not feel bad about it, and that's a good thing. In fact, I'd argue it's a healthy thing. Boobs are fantastic. There's a biological component that makes it totally normal to be fascinated by boobs. Mummy Milky. Mummy Milky, everyone. We got Mummy Milky. Really, you know what happened here is that I think after years and years of just hardcore oppression that the right has had to deal with from their own camp. No one on the left has ever been like, yeah, you can't enjoy boobs. Boobs are fucking awesome. Yeah, I love boobs. Boobs are great. Fucking more boobs, please. But yeah, so the right has been the opposite of that for a really long time. So after years and years of that, the very idea now of suddenly being allowed to publicly be like, oh, wait, we can do this now? We can say titties? Titties? Oh my. Fixation on the, quote, male gaze. People were told to fixate on whether the female forms they viewed were realistic or body positive, rather than simply look nice at all. I feel like no one really learned anything from any kind of feminist literature of like the past couple decades or so, in that like the very concept of the male gaze. Fellas, we should be appreciating women for being fully fledged human beings. That's what this has always been about. Not that you as men cannot be attracted to women. Not that you as men cannot find women hot or find boobs glorious and want boobs to smother your face. None of that. That's all based and awesome if it's done consensually and with someone who's totally into doing that with you. It's not been that. It's that, hey, women should be appreciated for more than just the tits, right? That there is more to women, that they are in fact incredibly complex and beautiful creatures, just like us men are, that they have thoughts and dreams and nightmares and fears and all that kind of stuff, that you can want to have a conversation with a woman and not want to just stare at her tits the whole time and actually get to know who she is and learn more about her, that women can be incredible writers and artists and painters and filmmakers and all this kind of stuff. That's what it's been about, in that, hey, we live in a society that really reduces women to one thing and one thing alone, hot or not. And their value comes from that, hot or not. And that sucks. In the same way, reducing men to whether or not they can be protectors, earners, providers, fucking sucks, because that can be really hard under our current system. And when they can't do those things, hey, are you less of a man? Are you emasculated? And yeah, the very concept of reversing that whole thing. And then suddenly there's the female gaze, as in sexualizing men or hypersexualizing men because it had been done to them the whole time. That's not trying to say that there should be suddenly a double standard that, you know, men, you just have to accept being sexualized for the rest of your lives. It's that, hey, have you ever looked at it in reverse and what it would be like if your entire value just is based entirely on how hot you are, and if you weren't considered hot by societal standards, would that suck? The answer is yes, absolutely. None of this had, like, anything I just said, everything I just said in totality has nothing to do with boobs aren't awesome. They are. Boobs are amazing. Of all shapes and sizes, of all colors, boobs are incredible, okay? And so are people who have amazing tits, and people can appreciate them, especially if they are trying to, you know, be appreciated for their sexuality. But that's not the only thing. It's not like, hey, by the way, what do you think of this person? They're hot. What else? They looks good when I see the tits, the titties slipping out. That's, yeah. What else? What do you want from me? I got nothing. I don't know. Maybe get asked to. Yeah. Writing for the red-blooded American male was hard enough, so I can only imagine what it was like to be one. Normie Americans everywhere, men and women, got used to walking on eggshells, things that we took for granted as being true. Comedians are allowed to be hyperbolic and offensive, the First Amendment is good, men and women are different, we're suddenly up for debate. The old school objectification was out, and a new kind of objectification took over. 2 weeks ago, when comedian Shane Gillis had a triumphant return to host Saturday Night Live after being fired for his racist jokes had resurfaced, the right wing saw it as a win, and the left wing saw it as a loss. No one really cared. Who? Shane Gillis? Oh man, I gotta Google who that is. Oh yeah, okay. Millions of Americans didn't care either way. True, Shane Gillis doesn't belong to the right wing any more than Sydney Sweeney does. If the reaction to Sydney Sweeney is any indication, this trend is not getting better. The horny conservative crowd immediately jumped in to capture the moment and label it right wing. But the online right is an inconsistent disaster. They'll go true. The first thing I totally agree with you in terms of this article. Yes, and writing. They went from calling Taylor Swift a psyop for dating a football player and chugging a beer to saying a bunch of sorority girls dancing is a sign of Satan and degeneracy. These lunatics who are clearly suffering internet poisoning do not speak for the masses. Who does? I'm confused, you know? I'm fucking confused. Yeah, if we want to borrow a line from Euphoria, you know? You're confused. I'm fucking confused. What's going on here? Who speaks for the right, you know? Is it the dudes obsessed with titties? Are they the right wing? Is it the people who think that women with beautiful breasts should have to be covered up at all times and then forcibly doing so in some kind of weird kind of, I don't know, fantasy AI generated, let's add children in the background as well? Are those your kids when you do that, by the way? When you use the Tradwife, the Force You to Become a Tradwife app, you take a picture of a woman in a bikini and you hit the button and then it adds her in a sweatshirt and then suddenly some children in the background. Do you think those are your kids in that moment? Is that part of the fantasy? Like, what if the kids turned out all like weird and reptilian-like, as they often do with the AI generation? Are they still your kids, you know? Does that count? Like, I'm just trying to learn. I don't understand it. It's, again, the Tradwife fetish is such a fascinating thing. It's got so much shit wrapped inside of it. It's got cuckoldry. It's got voyeurism. It's got white supremacy baked into the whole thing. All these layers, all this oppression, and can't talk about how I want the mummy milky. Like that is woven into the whole thing as well. It just feels like so much repressed sexuality is combining with cuckoldry and voyeurism and like, yeah, just outrageous shit. Representation matters, and if the past 2 weeks on Saturday Night Live hosts are evident, a blonde with nice boobies and a dude who says gay in the R slur, at last culture is representing me. And Instagram reels addicted basic bitch in the suburbs. People with broad appeal are back. So, white woman's Instagram, the song is that's again, yes, the unrepresented. Allow me to present all of you with something utterly strange. You will not be able to unsee it. You will not. Okay, this is going to combine a lot of things at once. But if you want to see how far the right have taken this, now that they feel that they have permission, I guess, by their peers to, let's just say, ogle BOOBA, geeks and gamers have started adding Sydney Sweeney into every single one of their thumbnails, even if it has absolutely nothing to do with Sydney Sweeney, and the same photo of Sydney Sweeney. And then I guess that wasn't enough for them, because then they created this monstrosity that you will now see before you. I give you Sydney Sweeney with the pronouns guy as her boobs. This is real. What is going on? I feel this is unhealthy. I gotta be honest. I feel like there's a lot of repression that is just exploding all over the place. Yeah. It's why is Sydney Sweeney here? Why is Sydney Sweeney here? Why is it the same photo? What is this? What is going on, boys? I gotta ask. There's a lot of things going on here at once, you know? I'm sure Jung would have a field day with this one. Dr. Jordan Peterson, paging Dr. Jordan Peterson. Can you help? Is this something that perhaps you could lend your expertise to? Because gotta be honest with you, I don't know what the fuck is going on. This is well out of my pay grade. You know, I mean,
Weird. Look, I know what you're thinking. Don't fall for it, Rachel. Don't do it. Bear with me for a sec, because this article actually tells us a lot, albeit unintentionally. Like, I get it. I'm sure they were trying to capitalize on this extremely online discourse where someone saw boobs and decided that means wokeness is dead. But it gets a little more interesting when you consider the source. The person who wrote that article is this Amy Ham, who still spends a lot of her time tweeting stuff like this. Wow, National Post, good get. In her op-ed, she basically makes the overall point that we're being pressured into believing everyone is beautiful, but you can't say that the people who actually are beautiful are. Wow, someone should really tell the folks in my DMs. The only evidence that she provides for her point is that Jordan Peterson got backlash when he said a swimsuit model wasn't beautiful. Which, like, no shit, he got backlash. What I found really interesting, though, was as she wrote this, Amy basically assumed there's a totally objective standard of beauty, which is just fundamentally untrue. I mean, different cultures have completely different beauty standards, and over the years, what we consider beautiful has also changed. But do you know who is always trying to tell us that women are supposed to look a very specific?
There's the key point. And hey, I interrupted right now to mansplain the point. But I just wanted to add to the last part that Rachel said. Yeah, standards of beauty have changed over time, right? Women who were much larger back in the day used to be considered much, much more beautiful for a variety of reasons. Our beauty standards change, whether it be cultural. Our beauty standards change, whether it be the period of time that we're currently in. And the message, I think, has always been the same thing, that no, it's not that you're suddenly not supposed to find someone like Sydney Sweeney hot. No one has ever said that. It's that, hey, other people can be hot too. There's not a one time like fits all, you know?
Specific way. The people pushing for extremely strict definitions of who can be considered a woman. And on top of being wildly transphobic, it's also really sexist, because not only do the laws these people push for make it so much harder for trans women to exist in public spaces, but they're actually also imposing a standard of femininity on all women. There are plenty of women, trans or cis, who might like to wear their hair short or wear some baggy clothes that might make them look a bit more masculine. And does that mean that they risk being harassed if they try to use a bathroom when they're...
Also, remember, what was it, maybe 2 weeks ago, when the entire right-wing discourse was hyper-fixated on Kristen Stewart's beauty, or lack thereof in their eyes, where Tim Pool was making full videos where he was like, I don't know if she's ever going to see this. And if she does, like, yeah, obviously, you know, reach out or whatever. But, you know, I just want to say that, like, she looks tired. She looks greasy, really greasy. You know, she looks like my friends who were addicted to drugs. Greasy on drugs. Gross. Not for me. Yeah, gross. Yeah, ugly. Ugly. Therefore, no value. No value because ugly. Greasy. Yeah, really greasy.
There's these kinds of laws in place. So I guess the point I'm trying to make here for people like Amy is that you're not being pressured into thinking anyone is beautiful, but it sure feels like you're trying to pressure us. What do you think?
That's it. You know, to take all the titties away, take all the distractions, you know, again, the eyes are up here, that stuff, once it's all gone and then the breast smoke is cleared. That's what it just, same thing. Same as always. It's about controlling women's sexuality, upholding one standard version of beauty. Typically, again, the ideal is a white woman, you know, young, blonde, large breasts, that kind of thing. And hey, that is beautiful. But guess what? So are lots of other kinds of body types. So are lots of other kinds of skin tones. So are lots of other amounts of melanin. All that shit. Gorgeous, absolutely beautiful. There's tons of different kinds of beauty. It's not a only one size fits all, and trying to control women, their sexuality has always been the right thing. They've just suddenly found the ability to be a little horny on main and be proud of it. 5 ways to use your huge bazongas as literal weapons in the woke war by the National Post. You've heard it here first. Canadians, the death of wokeness lies in a gorgeous set of organic, locally sourced bazongas. We, at the National Post, have compiled a full list of military-grade tactics to make sure that the big naturals, cha-chas, and knockers you know and love can be used as weapons in the woke war. After all, you might not be Sydney Sweeney, but you can still serve. Number 1, smothering. Take it from us, a group of mostly middle-aged white males. There's nothing that smothers our faces and enemies more effectively than a good old pair of lady honkers. If Ben Shapiro had giant mummy milkers, America would have elected him president already. And if he had used those milkers to brutally smother the woke Antifa, plaguing our schools, churches, and sewers, see our previous post article for context, we would have won the goddamn woke war already. Number 2, striking. The left may have guns, fists, and mean science words, but you know what they won't see coming? Your glorious shoulder boulders appearing out of your fucking nowhere to slap the woke right out of them. A hit that even one of your big old biddies is bad enough, but 2, those woke actors on SNL are as good as fired. Number 3, distraction. It's a known fact in the anti-woke circles that there's nothing that makes the lefty's head turn faster than a sweet, sweet duet of milk monsters. Why? Because they yearn for what their flat, woke chests will never have. Get a line of biological. This is also important for reasons we can't actually justify. Ladies, with melon the size of Jupiter's moons to swing them around every which way, and those pinkos won't see our forces coming. Crushing. All we need to say about this one is absolutely nothing can survive being absolutely shattered under the weight of 2 fabulous fun bags. Pete from accounting told us he didn't like Chappelle's last special, and 2 minutes later, boom, he was in pieces after a fucking beautiful mammary slam from Janet, our 62-year-old secretary. Bombs. Ladies, if you love Pierre Poilievre as much as we here at the National Post do, impossible, you'll make the ultimate sacrifice. Swap those implants for literal grenades, lure one of the liberal elite into your lair, pull the pins, and watch those socialism-worshipping scumbags explode. We thank you for your service. So in the words of our Lord and Savior, Jordan Peterson, if you've got 'em, flaunt 'em, or else the authoritarian tyrants who dictate who and what we are legally allowed to find personally attractive will break down your email in the middle of the night and make you mandatory social media classes. That was written by Claire Blackwood. If you'd like to follow at Claire Blackwood for more breaking journalism.
Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Can you please hit the like and subscribe button and maybe leave a comment? It really does help the videos out. But first, the people who produce everything you see before you and make this entire channel possible: Amazing Fletch, Anna Loves Riley, Ariane McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Multi Mondi, Omni, Peanut Butter Blondie, Political Puppy, Quiet 185, Rachel K, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Ruby K, Cernicus, Spinach Monster, Stellar Vision, Sebastian DeMel, Trevbot.exe, Words Greenwood, and Travis McClinton. And also, thank you to every other person who helps fund this show. Their names are on the screen right now. It would not be possible without every single one of them. We cannot thank you enough. And if you want to join the Patreon, please come to patreon.com/theserfs and help us exist.